I do not understand why everybody is so harsh on cryptozoology. Um, the founding fathers of it, two very esteemed zoologists. From one was from I want to say either Oxford or Cambridge, um, and another was like the Belgium Free Public College or something like that, which is a well-known college. I'm messing these up. You can look them up. Bernard Hevelmans and Ivan T. Sanderson. Um, they're two of the most well-known cryptozoologists out there. Carl Schuker is another one with a really impressive degree. All these guys have training in zoology, so they're very they're trained. They're literally scientifically trained in identification of animals, and frequently what they end up doing is they'll investigate like a mythical creature. They'll compare it to extinct species in that area and see if they can find a match. And frequently that's what they do. So it's a very logical science. You're like, yeah, sure, we know that there's remote, desolate, or not necessarily desolate, just remote, very forbidding terrain. There's areas where they're on the side of a mountain with a dense forest and lots of you know boulders and very very harsh terrain and frequently um, temperatures to match, like harsh temperatures to go with the harsh terrain. And nobody has any qualms with the idea of, oh, there's unknown species in the ocean. Well, we know that the ocean is unexplored. What's surprising to most people, something that most people don't realize, is that there are areas of the planet that are unexplored, including areas in the Pacific Northwest. The surveyors in those areas could not get through, and like when you can go down to the public records area and look at the survey reports where they're supposed to fill in their little locations and their triangulations, and there's all these blank pages. Like they could not go in some of these regions. It was that dense and just impossible to penetrate. Now I will grant that in the future, very near future, drones will be finding new species because they can go in areas we cannot. But as it stands right now, there's numerous areas on the planet that they're unexplored. The people have not gone into them. What's interesting to go with that cryptozoological summary, I guess, is so not only are there animals that have survived in these pockets, but there's areas where the terrain, let's say there's like a sheer valley on one side and a river and some other natural barrier, and so there's areas where plants couldn't move in, like the new evolution of various plants that took over the old plants. Those pockets actually have the old plants in them. So it's like, well, if the old plants are, there's little patchwork areas where things haven't changed in millions of years. If that can happen with the flora, then you should be opening the idea of it happening to the fauna. And there's actually an excellent quote by Carl Schuker on that. I'll read it. Here we go. As for the remaining prehistoric survivors presently on record, these usually inhabit isolated areas, little changed for thousands, if not millions of years, often due to prominent topographical features that have effectively delineated such areas from their immediate surroundings. Ensconced within these pocket havens of suspended time, primitive creatures have often been sheltered from competition with more advanced species that have evolved and established themselves elsewhere, or have retreated here in the wake of such competition experienced elsewhere. Areas of this type include treacherous mountain ranges, inhospitable rainforest encircled by rivers, sheer-sided valleys or other natural barriers, remote island stretches of water long since separated from any contact with the sea, and still far removed as yet from encroaching human civilization, as well as small uninhabited islands fairly totally undisturbed by Westerners due to their distant locations or lack of commercially viable properties. So these animals are in these areas where they're pockets of suspended time. So it there's nothing about cryptozoology that should be like so controversial. It's like, well, why, science isn't afraid of speculation, right? Like, look at all the speculation in science. They're speculating about dark energy and dark matter. 96% of the universe is speculation. We're not afraid of speculating about a lot of things in science. String theory, the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum, the quantum level of reality. That's speculation. This idea that it's, particle waves that exist as particles and waves at the same time until they're observed and then they collapse, and that's all speculation. String theory, everything about string theory. There's no aspect of string theory that is not speculation. Science is not afraid of speculation. So why are we afraid of speculating the idea that, maybe there's some, extinct species that are so uncommon and in such, hard to find areas that maybe something exists, and take these native reports seriously. There's always the indigenous people that say, guess what? This is part of our, this is part of our known animals. And in some areas, they're called, sometimes these animals are called animals you do not see once in a lifetime. So if you do see them, you're like, wow, that isn't a once in a lifetime event. That's a once in a, 1,000-year event, seeing that thing. So there's these reports from the natives, from the indigenous people. There's frequently skeletons. There's frequently species that we've known that were in that area that are now extinct. So you have all you have to do is say, well, maybe somewhere where we haven't explored, there's something out there. Why is that so controversial? I'll tell you why. It's not because it's speculative. It's because it confirms myth. And science has always positioned itself against myth, primitive ideas versus, scientific ideas. Two totally different modes of thinking. Like that's scientists. Mythbusters. Just look at that. Like, myths are to be debunked. They're to be busted. Myths. You can't confirm myths. Well, why? Why such a big deal? How many mythical cities turned out to be true? You have Troy, that was a myth, and then they found it, and Sodom and Gomorrah was a myth, and then they found it. Thanis, that Egyptian port city, the original Alexandria, that sank just like Alexandria is sinking. That was recently found. The Minoan civilization on Crete. How many mythical civilizations have we found out existed? So mythical species. Why are we? Well, some of those mythical creatures are in the Bible. That's why this is such a controversial topic. Think I'm lying? Think that's an exaggeration? Listen to the Wikipedia descriptions of cryptozoology. It is a pseudoscience. They don't follow the scientific method. They're hostile to mainstream science. They have a hatred for professional scientists. They are guilty of credential mongering. It's associated with pseudo-archaeology. Cryptozoologists are channeling their guilt over environmental destruction. Cryptozoology is associated with colonialism, from big game hunting. Cryptozoology is associated with European imperialism. It is associated with Holocaust denial. I don't know what that connection is talking about. Cryptozoology is associated with the New Age movement. It's associated with occultism. Cryptozoologists are compared to ghost hunters, compared with ufologists and parapsychologists and creationists, and they're gullible. Like, that's all on Wikipedia's page for cryptozoology, and all this science is identifying extinct species with mythical accounts from indigenous people. All that. Why all that? Because it confirms the Bible. There's 7 different cryptozoological creatures in the Bible. There's 7 different mythical creatures in the Bible. There's a unicorn. There's the satyr. There's dragons. There's a total of 7 different mythological creatures. A phoenix is in there. So those things can't exist. They cannot exist. Science cannot confirm the Bible. It's not allowed. It's pseudoscience. You can't confirm the Bible. It's pseudoscience. And I think that's why I like alternative science. It makes sense. It's like, yeah, like these indigenous people and these extinct species, like bling bling, like this is such an obvious connection here. But all that vitriol is based on the fact you can't confirm myth. You can't confirm the Bible. So, you tell me. Is it that bad? Now, I will grant something. I will grant the fact that because it became branded as pseudoscience very early in its infancy, well, guess what? You don't have the same quality people as the founding fathers. Now, I will say one of the most renowned, esteemed, scholarly cryptozoologists around today is Carl Schuker. But the founding fathers of cryptozoology have passed, and there are a lot of anyone can get into the field. It isn't scholarly. It's now a fringe thing. So it does attract the fringe element, and then that's how it gets debunked. You just find these flaky fringe guys and you straw man those guys, and voila, it's all disproved. And it's like, no, it's not. You just disprove the flakes, and thank you for doing that. Anyways, so cryptozoology, alternative science. That's why it's not accepted by the mainstream. It has nothing to do with anything. It all is basically political, but theological politics.